Over the past 24 months, 1.6 million people have been buying an iPhone every single day. That's 79 iPhones per minute, or 133 iPhones every second for the last 2 years nonstop. And it looks like this trend will continue well into the future as iPhone sales have remained resilient during the global chip shortage that has ravaged the auto and PC industries. This begs the question, what is the true power of the iPhone? How does Apple manage to sell so many iPhones despite a lack of significant innovation in recent years? What are some of the lesser-known ways that Apple leverages the iPhone to make billions of dollars every year? So, we made this video to show how Apple built an empire around the iPhone. Before we start, do us a favor and support us by subscribing. It really helps out. To answer this question, here are 13 of the most important things to know about the true power of the iPhone. No. 1. Over 50% of Apple's annual revenue comes from iPhone sales alone. The iPhone is still Apple's biggest product, generating over $192 billion in the last 12 months. For perspective, this is more than Amazon's entire revenue in 2020, and with such a large addressable market, Apple can generate significant profit for shareholders without needing to grow the iPhone business. In fact, if Apple were to keep iPhone prices the same but increase their market share to 25%, they could earn $1 trillion from the iPhone alone. No. 2. Every iPhone sold feeds into Apple's broader ecosystem: App Store, iCloud, Apple Music, and Apple Care. Apple sells a wide range of services that complement the iPhone, which means they can generate multiple revenue streams from each device sold. Their goal is to sell you an iPhone and then get you to sign up for as many complementary services as possible. Once you join the ecosystem, it becomes very difficult to leave, which generates huge switching costs that lock customers in place. No. 3. iPhone acts as a customer acquisition magnet, driving lifetime revenue through bundled services. Apple knows that customers who buy expensive Apple products like Macs or iPads are much more likely to use iCloud, Apple Arcade, or Apple TV. So, instead of focusing on acquiring these customers directly, they sell you the iPhone at virtually zero margin and then get you to sign up for these higher margin services later on. Tim Cook famously said that the iPhone was the greatest customer acquisition tool ever created. And this is still true today because it gets you into the ecosystem where you spend money on everything else. No. 4. Vertical integration. Apple controls design, hardware, software, and even its own chips, Apple Silicon. This gives them full control over the customer experience, allowing them to optimize for the best possible performance and profitability. For example, Apple can build custom versions of iOS that only run on certain iPhones, which reduces piracy and ensures that people buy new models to enjoy the latest software features. And by controlling both hardware and software, Apple can easily collect data from iPhone users, allowing them to serve highly relevant ads that maximize the revenue generated from the App Store. No. 5. Walled garden ecosystem keeps users locked in, boosting repeat purchases and customer retention. By tightly controlling the customer experience, Apple can ensure that your data is always available when you need it, giving you a sense of comfort and familiarity that makes you less likely to switch to competing products. And this strategy has worked extremely well for Apple, as they now boast record customer retention rates. The vast majority of iPhone users stick with Apple for several years after their initial purchase. No. 6. Apple is focused on high-margin products rather than market share, something that Android manufacturers do and seem to care about. They would rather sell fewer devices at a healthy profit margin than flood the market with low-cost phones that barely break even. This allows Apple to invest heavily in R&D, resulting in some of the most durable and reliable smartphones on the market. Number 7. Apple earns a cut from every App Store transaction, subscription, and in-app purchase. The App Store has become one of the most profitable businesses in the world, generating over $100 billion in revenue last year alone. And Apple takes a 15 to 30% cut of every sale, which adds up to tens of billions of dollars every year. If we take Fortnite as an example, Apple earned roughly $7 billion in the last 12 months, even though they didn't develop or market the app themselves. This gives them a strong incentive to promote the App Store, as it directly increases their bottom line. 8. iPhone connects users to services like Apple TV Plus, Apple Fitness Plus, and Apple Pay, diversifying income sources. As mentioned earlier, the real money is made from selling services, not products. And by offering a variety of complementary services, Apple can maximize the amount of money you spend across all of their platforms. For example, when you sign up for Apple TV Plus, you're much more likely to also use Apple Music and iCloud. And this drives a flywheel effect that increases the overall size of the entire ecosystem. 9. The average iPhone user spends more across Apple platforms than any other smartphone user base. Research shows that iPhone users are much more likely to spend money on Apple services compared to Android users. And this makes sense because the iPhone is marketed towards a more affluent audience. In fact, 55% of iPhone users have an income of over $100,000, compared to just 25% of Android users. So, when you combine a large addressable market with a captive audience, you end up with a perfect environment for monetization. 10. Apple became the first $3 trillion company with the iPhone at its core. In just over 14 years, Apple has grown from a $1 trillion company to a $3 trillion company, and the iPhone has been the key driver behind this growth. In fact, the iPhone accounts for nearly half of Apple's total market cap, which highlights just how important this product is to the company. But even though the iPhone has driven massive shareholder returns, Apple has managed to avoid the pitfalls that have trapped many of their peers. Unlike Nokia or BlackBerry, Apple has managed to reinvent itself over time and stay relevant in a rapidly changing industry. 11. A recurring revenue model from iPhone-linked services stabilizes Apple's earnings and attracts long-term investors. When customers sign up for services like iCloud, Apple Music, or Apple News, they usually commit to a recurring billing cycle. This creates a predictable and stable revenue stream that allows Apple to consistently grow earnings year after year, even if iPhone sales decline. And this stability makes Apple much more attractive to long-term investors, which in turn allows them to raise capital at better rates. 12. Massive share buybacks funded by iPhone-driven cash flow increase EPS and stock value. Apple is sitting on a mountain of cash that was primarily generated from iPhone sales, and they're re-putting this cash to work by buying back shares. By reducing the number of outstanding shares, Apple is able to increase earnings per share, making the company more attractive to investors. In fact, Apple has already bought back over $300 billion of their own shares since 2012, which has significantly boosted their stock price. 13. iPhone production spans across China, India, Vietnam, shaping global trade and tech supply chains. To meet global demand, Apple has diversified its manufacturing base to reduce geopolitical risk and tap into cheaper labor markets. This has given workers in emerging markets access to high-paying jobs that help boost local economies. In fact, the iPhone is responsible for over 100,000 direct jobs and millions of indirect jobs around the world, and this economic impact has helped establish the iPhone as one of the most powerful symbols of globalization in our generation. Foxconn, TSMC, Corning, and others are billion-dollar companies that thrive off the iPhone's supply chain. These companies manufacture key components of the iPhone, allowing Apple to focus on design and marketing. By outsourcing production, Apple is able to save on labor costs while benefiting from economies of scale. Finally, iPhone demand influences global manufacturing trends and innovation cycles. The iPhone has pushed the boundaries of what is possible in mobile technology, and this has forced competitors to innovate and improve their own offerings. In fact, many of the innovations that we take for granted today, like fast charging or curved displays, were first introduced on the iPhone. And this constant pressure to innovate has helped push the entire industry forward, benefiting consumers in the process. Do you own an iPhone? Comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button to stay updated.